Hi guys, this is Maki at Double Stop Music. This video is the first of a multi-video series I'm calling the Cello Bow Crash Course. The setup of the bow seems to be the most problematic aspect of cello playing, even for professionals. So I want to try an experiment with these videos. I want to use these as a forum for discussion. I'd like to ask you if you have a question, a criticism, any advice, if something worked or didn't, will you share it with me and your fellow colleagues in the comment box? And I promise I will participate in the forum and answer anything that comes my way. So hopefully we all learn some new information, including myself. Today we'll focus on the basic setup and theory behind a strong but relaxed bow arm in 5 steps. By the end of it, you'll know how to get a big sound out of the cello by only utilizing your natural arm weight, how to channel that arm weight into all parts of the bow, including the tip, a bow hold that allows you to accomplish all of this, as well as solutions to problems you might encounter and for tension in your arm in general. So without further ado, let's get started. Every teacher has a different way to teach the bow hold, so you definitely don't have to do it this way, but I want to suggest you still watch this part so you see the reasoning and logic behind it, and make sure that your bow hold checks all of these boxes too. So this bow hold I'm showing you is my default bow hold that I use to get a big sound. It's also the first thing that I teach all my students. So the first thing I want you to do is find the second crease, use a pencil, right here, of your middle finger. And you also want to find the top, on the top ledge of the bow, right here where the grip ends, right here on this spot. You want to hold your bow up with your left hand, dangle your right hand over so that the spacing of your fingers is naturally revealed. And you want to meet the two spots together by draping or hanging the hand on top of the bow like a coat on a coat rack. It's really important that your hand sits on the bow rather than grabbing or holding the bow. Make sure that your middle finger is perpendicular 90 degrees, not like that or like that, 90 degrees to the bow, and just hang it over. Your thumb is going to land between where the frog ends and the leather begins, right here in this gap. And your middle finger will naturally drape, and you'll see it touches half the silver and half the hair. This is what we call our square position, sort of our starting position at the frog. With the fingers out, place the second crease on that same spot and roll your index finger and your middle finger to the left. This is what we call pronation. And while you're doing it, just like you would pour a cup of water out or turn a doorknob, you want to keep the wrist flat and the elbow in the same spot. The only thing that moves is your forearm, which rotates back and forth, like this. Now, resume your normal bow hold and see if you can accomplish the same thing. The thumb is bent and loose. And remember that your middle finger has to stay perpendicular to the bow. If it is formed sort of like an X shape, you're going to accidentally do something called supination, which is the opposite, and that's off limits for now. You want to practice pronating so much that your other 3 fingers can actually lift off the bow. Getting a big, rich sound comes from you channeling your entire arm weight into the bow and into the string, rather than using your muscles or force to push the bow down into the string. So the first thing you have to remember is that you do not hold the bow and apply it onto the string. Rather, the bow sits on the string and the hand sits on top of the bow. So start with a square bow hold at the frog, really close to the bridge, like maybe an inch away from the bridge, and just drop your entire arm weight into the string and then drag just a few inches across. Right at the frog, yeah, like this. And And I like to feel like my my index finger and middle finger kind of hook onto the bow here. Thumb stays bent and loose, does not really participate here. So I want you to find sort of this maximum bow weight that you can achieve from a dead arm, and just remember how that feels. Remember the volume of sound that comes out of the cello. The next step is to be able to channel that dead arm weight into the tip. So in order to do that, first I want you to try an exercise with the table. Basically what you want to do is, without using the bow, just pronate all the way and then drop your arm onto a table like this, just on your index finger side. Now, the key to this is that the wrist and the elbow stay firm, and you create sort of a L-shaped block with your arm so that if someone pushes against it, it maintains its shape. It's not tense, it's what we call supported. So it maintains its shape. And basically what that does is it allows the entire arm's weight to drop, and basically anywhere you choose to support it, the same amount of weight is applied, meaning it goes straight into the bow. Make sure that the elbow is ever so slightly under the shoulder, the wrist is ever so slightly under the elbow, so forth and so on. And you want to just kind of drop it. And I like to visualize it as this is one block, L-shaped block, and I drop the shoulder into the hand like that. You can also visualize like you're in a pool, standing in a pool, and this is a pool toy. And you're just dropping your arm onto it, and it sinks below the water. You can just visualize it sort of sinking below the water like that. So this is what you're gonna do to the bow. Now set up your bow hold so it's pronated all the way on to your index finger. Set the bow at the tip near the bridge like before. And like you practiced on the table, you're gonna keep the thumb very supported and strong, and then do the same thing. Drop, keeping this as one unit, drop from the shoulder down. And you're going to feel the bow lean really strongly against your thumb, and that's okay. You keep your thumb supported instead of squeezing. It maintains its shape as the bow leans against it so it doesn't topple over, but it does not squeeze back. This is very important. The wrist stays flat and firm, and the elbow does not drop or collapse either. You need to make sure that you're not rotating down like this, but rather it's a whole unit. And like sinking the pool toy, you drop the arm as a unit. And this will send your arm weight into the tip. This works because the index finger is closer to the tip than the thumb. When your hand is square, the arm weight is evenly distributed from the index finger all the way to the pinky through the hand. And the bow can sit on the string of the frog, but when you move to the middle of the bow, it would just roll over if you just dropped your arm. So that's when you lean onto the index finger and pronate. When that happens, the arm weight consolidates into one point onto that side of that first finger, and the thumb stays supported and doesn't let the bow topple over and acts as a fulcrum. So the difference in position between this downward force coming from the arm weight channeling into the first finger and the fulcrum of the thumb sends the tip of the bow straight down. Now the trick here is to make sure that no part of your arm is sort of holding or lifting up the weight. You have to get everything to drop down. And if you're successful, your dead arm weight down here will be the same at the tip. Oops. So you get a similar amount of volume there. Once you're able to do that, then imagine like there's like an inflatable beach ball or something underneath your arm, and someone just knifed it and there's air leaking out of it, and it's going to deflate, and that's what's going to send your bow back to the frog. So your arm is sort of just deflating down. And as you do that, you can loosen your thumb and return the hand to its square position. The last step is to reverse the process. So once you've practiced this a few dozen times and you have muscle memory of what it feels like to be at the tip, this starting point now becomes the end point. So you're going to start from a square hand position with a dead arm at the frog like before, you're going to drag across and gradually work your way to that original starting point. Something like that. And your arm is supposed to be completely resting into the string at all times. Make sure that you're not twisting down, you're forcing or using your muscles. All you're doing is having the wrist, elbow, and thumb supported whenever you tilt. The lower third is not going to use the thumb very much because you don't have to tilt, but starting from about here on, you're going to gradually have to lean onto the first finger. An exercise you can do to practice this is a stopped bow, where you rest your entire arm weight into the string. I'll use the D string here, and you just kind of nudge the entire arm to the right, and your natural arm weight is going to act as a brake. Now, if you notice, if I keep my bow hold square and my thumb loose, it gets fuzzy. I lose articulation. So that means that's the point I have to tilt. I'm going to tilt a little bit. Now I have the articulation back. It's fuzzy again, so I'm going to tilt more. Channel my arm weight into the bow. And so that kind of measures out the pacing at which you should pronate from the frog to the tip. Because if you don't tilt enough, and if you won't be able to channel your arm weight into the tip, and therefore you'll lose friction with the string necessary to articulate. So it's kind of like snapshots, like stop motion photography, and you can use the same thing here. Now, what you want to be careful is that you don't end up at the frog pronated like this. You want to practice returning as early as you possibly can to the loose thumb in the square hand. So that's also going to help you measure this out. And that's it. Let me know if I missed anything. If something is unclear, just ask away. I promise I will participate and answer in the comments. I have a couple of topics planned out, but I am just going to keep making these until I run out of ideas to address. So good luck, and see you in the next one.